BMW just gave birth to a brand new hot wagon. Somebody made a car that runs on power drills, and yes, they are Russian. Also, great news! We're gonna get a bunch of cheap new cars again, maybe. But first, when you think of off-road supercars, you think Porsche, Lamborghini, and Ford? This is the Big Three. Welcome back to the Big Three, everybody. If you've never listened before, welcome to the show. We talk all the car news that you need to know, so you don't have to go and read stuff on the internet. My name is Nolan Sykes. I am joined, as always, by Joe Weber.
What's up? I can't say keep it juiced because Johnsonville started using that for their sausage campaign.
Well, we'll get a lawsuit going.
Yeah.
We'll shut that down.
Yeah. So,
and Bart Bidlingmeyer.
Hi, guys. Good to be here.
Yeah, dude.
Nolan Sykes.
Yes. That's my name.
Nolan J. Sykes.
New Artist of the Year nominee. I wanted to say congratulations. I know you didn't win, but
thank you. Yeah, I do look like a pop country artist right now, don't I? With the flannel and the camo. It says, just so we address this up, it says, "Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to drive Teslas." That's what my hat says. I got it from Luke White on Instagram. Yes,
nice.
A lot of funny country stuff.
Are you coming out as anti-Tesla now?
I feel like that's not a new thing for the show.
I don't think I've ever heard it like explicitly come out of your mouth, though.
We've talked a lot of shit on Elon Musk and Tesla. Yeah. I think it was implied, but yeah, I guess don't buy a Tesla. I mean, we've known that for a couple of years, I feel like. I've been off the Elon train since the whole Thai cave incident, when his dumb little invention that he wanted to have the little mini submarine
that would have
thing.
Never worked.
And then the experts, exactly. The experts that were there were like, that shit's not going to work. It's like a really tight cave with.
And then he was like, "Well, you're a pedo."
What's with billionaires and submarines? When are they going to learn? Just stop.
I heard that Gabe Newell, he's the guy who started Valve.
Yeah.
They have Steam, of course, very successful. If you buy PC games, you probably do it through Steam. Yeah. He's also into submarines now.
Yeah.
Dude.
That's what you do.
The next thing. You run out of cars, guns, tanks, submarines.
Watches.
Yeah. Watches.
Yeah. Watches are in there. I would never go on a submarine. I'm so claustrophobic. I just imagine just a bunch of water rushing in and you have nowhere to go. Yeah. That's scary.
Pretty gnarly. I'm fascinated by submarines and submarine movies. I think that's my favorite subgenre.
Subgenre. Nice one.
Hey,
for you,
hey.
I didn't even know he did it.
I didn't.
That's how smart he is.
It just comes naturally. But yeah, I would never want to be on
especially one that's controlled by a PS5 controller.
Yeah.
That should be a huge.
It was a Logitech controller, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even it's like a Mad Catz.
It was like Mad Catz almost. Yeah. Except Logitech. Fans of Logitech around here.
Yeah. Oh no, the turbo button is stuck.
Oh, that's what happened. Oh no. All right. Let's get into the news this week. Top Gear reported on Friday that Ford is making an off-road supercar under the Raptor line. Ford is discussing breaking off Raptor into its own badge. They want to, quote, own off-road. Ford finished on the podium in their first Dakar rally with the Raptor T1 Plus with Carlos Sainz Sr. behind the wheel.
That's good. That's cool.
Yeah.
And the Raptor's awesome, and it was designed specifically for Baja. There's a really cool documentary about it. I think they could easily jump that.
You guys are off. You guys are hitting it.
Oh, I didn't even know because Baja trucks jump. Yeah, I think they could jump into this sector pretty easily, and
they'd have a pretty soft landing, I think. Yeah, really make some rooster tails with this announcement, right?
Nice.
I don't know if that's a
little stretch.
People use. Yeah.
I use it. Rooster tails in the dirt. That's a thing.
All right. No, I mean as to say. It's a big announcement or something.
But they do have the potential of turning they could turn their competition into pink mist.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, cool. So details on this project are pretty vague at this point. They're playing it pretty close to the chest, with Ford CEO Jim Farley saying, quote, "We're in the middle of creating something, ... But the question is, should Ford make an off-road supercar? Not a version of a car, a standalone supercar."
Have you guys seen the Factory 5 Raptor kits?
Yes.
Those are gnarly.
Yeah, so that's a tube frame chassis that you buy a donor F-150 and take the body panels off of that, the cab and the body panels and everything, and then place it onto this tube chassis that they have. And then it's got like long travel suspension, all that good stuff. I'm very intrigued by that.
That's pretty cool.
They're pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
But I think it lets you know that I don't think, like we're saying, like Ford doesn't have the reputation as a lot of other companies have built as that being, an off-road, like really gnarly platform. But I think it proves that it's.
Yeah. I wonder if this supercar would be even truck shaped, because the Raptor Dakar, the T1, doesn't really look very truck-ish.
No, it looks really cool though.
Yeah, it looks cool.
It's futuristic looking.
Yeah, so I wonder if they would try to make like a street or legal car with those kind of like lines or silhouette or something like that.
Well, if they're looking at competing with like Porsche or the Urus, then
Yeah.
One of the questions that spurred this discussion at Ford was, are people actually using these utility trucks for utility, or can an off-road vehicle take a different form? Farley said, quote, "The reason people love the Ranger Raptor in the UK is because it's a fun car, but the damping is very compliant. So maybe a move to a stiffer, more sporty chassis might make sense."
It is there's a lot of off-road supercars coming out, I feel like, in the last 5 years. It's like a new segment.
Well, yeah, there's 911 Dakar, great car. Storado. I've seen like two of those.
They made like one version that could go off-road.
Did they really? Wow.
Yeah.
And then I know Ford they built a Mach-E rally.
Yeah.
That the Straight Pipes drove recently on their channel. So
did that have like the 1400 drivetrain? Or like the electric motors?
It has the electric motors.
Yeah. But it's not like the 1400 horsepower one?
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. No. I guess that begs the question, would people trust a Ford in the same market as cars like the 911 Dakar and Storado? If anything, I would trust it more because they have so much experience developing the Raptor, rather than, it's at least in Lamborghini's case, like throwing a lift kit on the Huracan,
The Urus like blew people away. Like I think Lamborghini really opened this door as like, holy crap, you can do both.
Yeah.
And like you'd have things like
they had the architecture of the RSQ8 or whatever to go off of. But I want to see the difference between like say the Urus and the Storado.
Sure.
Like how they behave off-road. I think it would be fun to see them try to compete because it's going to be $150,000 less than these other ones.
Possibly, yeah.
Sometimes people aren't looking for the value is the other thing when you're at that level.
But it could be like what the Corvette did for American
what
supercars.
The C8 Corvette did for sports cars, this will do for supercars that you occasionally take to the desert once a year after you buy it. Yeah.
Finally, those guys get their roses.
Yeah.
I think the Corvette, though, was like, I don't know how to get over it, but it's a Corvette. You know what I mean? And I think that if Ford does this, maybe they're going to make a super competent, maybe even market dominant car for much less, but people are still going to be like, yeah, it's a Ford.
Yeah.
Which is maybe why they're experimenting with a Raptor badge.
Your French friend is going to be like,
badge.
Your French friend is going to be like, I'll wait for the Lincoln version.
American trucks as shit.
I mean, dude, I see why people would think, like, oh, Ford is a lower segment, lower kind of tier, but I think of those three brands, I would trust this company the most with off-road stuff. Like,
okay.
How often are they off-roading in Italy? You know what I mean?
I don't have a good answer.
How often are they taking that 911 Dakar out over in Germany? Let's be real.
Apparently the Raptor is popular in the UK, which I didn't know.
The Ranger Raptor, yeah, because it's little, and also I've heard a few different people say it has very like sports car like handling because it has a shorter wheelbase, narrower, but also just drives very well. So I don't know. I'm into it.
What do you think is going to power this thing? Do you think the Godzilla?
Do you have some sort of deal we don't know about where you get like $500 every time the Godzilla is mentioned? This is the third episode in a row.
What you don't know is he's also getting paid when we mention it.
I get, yeah,
it's total mention. So
that's what I'm saying.
It's called hustling, girls.
No, I don't think it'd be Godzilla.
Well, they just announced another Godzilla that's supercharged. Godzilla 2.0.
That's $4,000. That's $2,000 in
the
Joe's
Megazilla.
pocket. Megazilla.
It's got
that's $1,000.
Good Lord.
I wish, dude. 3-liter supercharger on top of the 7.3 liter Godzilla engine. Well, it's gonna make over 1,000 horsepower.
Jeez.
And they also,
if they're competing in a supercar off-road market, they'd have to use something substantial. At least 800.
The power plant that's in the Raptor R would be a good, I think, candidate for that.
Go Boost?
No, it's a V8. I think that's a supercharged Coyote.
Okay.
Yeah. It's putting it down.
It's making the beans.
Well, the R has 37-inch tires, so it needs a lot of power to spin those things up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Dude, so Emily bought a RAV4 hybrid in June.
You've only filled it up three quarters
I'm not
going to
mention that because apparently if I mention things more than once, Nolan takes out his little notebook and does a hash mark.
I keep track.
Wait, what happened? I don't know.
Joe,
my wife bought a RAV4 in June.
And they filled it up twice.
I wasn't even going to mention it. It's actually been 3 times now. So
I see. So you're touting its fuel economy.
No, I'm not. I'm not even talking about fuel economy at all. I was going to talk about
frequency
how many weight balances there are on the rear tire. There's like 12 of them.
Really?
I'm like, that is like an unbalanced tire, right?
You might have to go to a different shop.
Yeah. What kind of tires are on it, you know?
No, I didn't look that closely. I
The
just
Oblong 2800.
Well, you'll be happy to know. I mean, we talked about this when we got back from SEMA, but Toyota they're also experimenting with a Dakar-inspired RAV4.
Really?
Yeah. It's a RAV4. Yeah. It has like aero elements on it, and it has a lift and off-road tires. And
that's cool.
Yeah.
My RAV4 has trail mode.
Trail
so
mode,
I've been trying to find a little mud.
Well, you can go up to that. There's that little park that we went to with the Bronco.
Elephant Hill?
Yeah, you could go to Elephant Hill.
They actually
blocked that off.
Blocked it off because a lot of people were doing that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of big Ford news, Ford will be battling Ferrari once again. That's right. In yet another move to ramp up their motorsports division, Ford announced that they would be joining the top class in the World Endurance Championship racing starting in 2027. So the most iconic race in this championship is the 24 Hours of Le Mans, of course, which they famously won against Ferrari in 1966 and 67, with non-factory Fords winning in 68 and 69. Of course, 1966 was the famous 1-2-3 finish. Other manufacturers gunning for the championship right now include Porsche, Aston Martin, BMW, Toyota, Peugeot, and fellow American car maker Cadillac.
So who are you picking between? Well, you're a Ford guy.
Yeah.
You would pick Ford over Cadillac? Would you pick Ford over Cadillac?
For this win, I think I would again, because Ford, it's so funny, dude. Like we've talked about this, the Ford versus Ferrari story so many times.
Yeah.
And it's always like when you read, books and other articles about it, it's always framed as like Ford being the real underdog of that story, right? They're just these scrappy Americans coming in to take on the elitist Italians. Meanwhile,
that's the very American version.
Yes, where it's like it was. I mean, even back in the 60s,
I would squished a meatball in his paw when he found out.
They're like a huge corporation taking on what was at the time a small specialty team that just happened to be very good at sports car racing.
And Ford tried to sneak in a clause in the contract.
I mean, they tried
screw
to buy
Ferrari over.
Yeah, they tried to buy Ferrari in the first place, and exactly. So I've always, ever since like we've done those videos, it's like, oh, this is presented totally backwards and is very funny.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I would choose Ford because they are still a huge
underdog.
They got huge resources. They can put as much people behind it as they want to win. So yeah, I would bet on them doing that.
So I've been writing this Volvo script, and Ford in the early 2000s bought so many car companies. It's ridiculous. They bought Volvo, Aston Martin, Land Rover, Jaguar. They owned all those.
They made everything look like a Taurus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a stake in Mazda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they took Aston Martin's grill and put it on a Fusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The FIA's endurance racing commissioner, Richard Mille, said, quote, endurance racing's golden age is right here, right now. That is the same Richard Mille as the guy who makes the watches.
Yeah, Richard Mille.
Richard Mille.
Mille.
Mia. Is it Mia?
Mille.
Mia.
You kind of just like swallow your tongue when you do it.
Mia.
Well, don't not say it though. The L's are still there.
Yeah.
E.
Let's move on. I can't do it.
If you're truly not a watch guy.
I'm not. I'm really not. I have my little Seiko and that's it.
Dude, I love the Seiko you gave me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I wear it all the time.
I didn't
My
get a
baby
Seiko.
loves it.
You're giving everybody Seikos?
I'm just handing them out, dude.
Come
Yeah.
on, man.
I can't give them away.
How many of these I got to do before I get a Seiko?
Other stops on the calendar include Imola, Fuji Raceway, and Spa-Francorchamps.
Dude, you nailed that.
I love saying
Hell yeah.
Spa-Francorchamps. Yeah. Ferrari won the last 24 hours of Le Mans, so Ford has some work to do. And other
I like it just that if Ferrari wins a couple things, Ford's like, okay, we're going to have to enter this one.
Yeah.
It's what we do.
It's like that Don Draper in the elevator meme where he's like, you. And he's like, I don't think about you ever.
Yeah.
I wonder, though, what kind of trickle down their technology will have on their production cars with this, because I think they have to make their own drivetrain.
Yeah.
And they'll probably do some sort of twin turbo V8
Turbo
or
V8
something
with a hybrid system.
Yeah. And maybe that goes in the
Fusion.
Fusion.
Yeah. Yeah, the Fusion has just a bunch of like canards on it.
Hell yeah.
You do have a Fusion, right? Still have it?
Yeah.
You have a
I
Fusion?
remember.
Yeah.
I thought you're still rocking
the hybrid SE. Well, it's my wife and I, we make enough money between the two of us that we can own 2 cars.
Nice.
Yes.
So
And they're
she-
both, it was funny. I took the Interceptor in, because
The Taurus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I needed the water pump fails and it's behind the timing cover and it's
what?
just all the
Oh,
So, but then it's like, all right, well, let's just do the timing chain because all that crap. Anyways, I called to check on it and she was like, oh, you're the Ford guy. And I was kind of like, no, I own the Ford.
I happen to own Ford.
Yeah.
Oh, the cop guy who also likes Fords.
But anyways, yeah, we have a Fusion in the
Gotcha.
Taurus.
Yeah.
Question for you.
I've only filled up the Fusion twice. I'm just kidding. I filled up more than that because my wife never does. It's fine. What were you gonna ask, Noah?
Nah, it's not important. I was gonna ask how you fare having 2 sedans and children.
It was worth it. We knew they were going to be alive. Well, we hoped they'd be alive for at least 6 years each. And so we did the math and it made sense just to get 2 sets of car seats.
Gotcha.
So we're not moving everything. It's just like get in the car.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's nice.
In other Ford racing news, they're currently 3D printing race car parts for the Red Bull F1 team.
They're getting a little head start on their endurance racing.
And they're working on a fully electric Mustang Mach-E prototype for NASCAR. Huh.
How many miles do you think they're going to be able to go?
Are they just doing it as like a spec
prototype
publicity stunt? Be like, look, this is an electric NASCAR. Effective. They're not going to work to get NASCAR moved to an
I don't
electric
think so.
class. Yeah.
I don't think that would ever happen.
NASCAR, they had an electric prototype, I want to say, announced within the last couple of years. They showed that off. For a while now, I've been wanting someone to start up like a spec or like stock car series for crossover SUVs. I think that'd be not fun, but at least somewhat
the
interesting.
Murano Cup.
Yeah. Or like seeing Mazda and Murano go head to head and then CRV's coming up behind and then RAV4, Toyota would bring it. TRD would get their
Just
hands
all
over.
that body roll.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that'd be sick. I think it'd be fun. So good news for all of us on a budget. Cheap cars are gonna make a comeback. Or at least that's what we hope. Car and Driver and The Drive reported that automakers are making a push to bring sub $30,000 cars back to their lineups. At a National Automobile Dealers Association event, Ford, Mitsubishi, Ram, and Mini told dealers that they would ramp up production of their cheaper models. Just for some context here, last year, the average new car sold for $48,000.
That's crazy.
That's a lot of money. And since the pandemic, car companies were prioritizing higher-end cars due to the chip shortage and also the fact that they can pretty much get away with charging whatever they want.
Yeah.
Interest rates are still high, and December of last year saw the highest average car loan at $756 per month. Which
you lived in your car for a week, Nolan.
I did. Yeah.
That's
was terrible.
That's like.
That is crazy, which has
that
resulted
is rent,
in
right?
Yeah. That is wild. So that super high monthly payment has resulted in a drop in sales. Yeah, that's the average, dude.
Yeah.
The average. That's insane.
I read this story about a woman who was financing like a $80,000 truck and paying $1,200 a month for like 8 or 10 months or something. And then she lost her job and couldn't make payments anymore after like a year. And then realized that she had only paid off the interest and not made a dent in the actual price of the car.
That's just unbelievable, man. So yeah, super high payments like that have resulted in a drop in sales for anyone 35 years and under. No surprise there. And because of this, cars like the Chevy Trax, Ford Maverick, and Mitsubishi Outlander have seen an incredible growth in sales. Other cars like the Nissan Versa, their sales were up 72% last year. The Mazda CX-30 sales went up 24%. And the Honda Civic went up 21% last year. So
that doesn't seem like a lot, but the Civic sales were like around 250,000 cars. So it is a lot of cars.
72% for the Versa. That's amazing. Yeah. Ford plans to produce more Escapes, Explorers, and lower tier F-150s. They're also refreshing the Bronco Sport and the Maverick. Ram plans to axe the Ram Classic, bad move, and offer new low trim level variants of the 1500. I mean, I think they should just keep building that Ram Classic. I'm not saying that's because I have one.
If you go to other countries, I know a lot of the stuff in the States is because of mandatory safety standards, backup cameras, lane departure, all this stuff is starting to get mandated. It's expensive. But if you go to other countries like South Africa, they are still selling new, like, third-gen Civics.
We've talked about this a lot, but, you know, with the post-war boom and everything, through the 60s and 70s, you know, with automakers making a brand new model every single year and like incrementally changing to keep people buying the cars. I think like this could be like an opportunity for car makers to maybe step back and reintroduce the idea that you just brought up, Bart, of like having an old model around for a long time, like iPhone does with iPhone Classic, right? Like that's like a 4th gen iPhone, 5th gen iPhone that still works like 10 years after the fact. Updated here and there, but not like it's not a top of the line thing, but it's still something that a lot of people can afford and gets you, you know, online for a reasonable price. And I feel like, you know, finding those gaps in regulation where maybe some of their older cars still technically pass the mandates that they need to.
Another thing though that's tricky is the cars that I mentioned, the cars that you'll see tooling around South Africa, those are like timeless designs.
Yes.
And it's been a while since we've had, you know, like an accessible timeless design.
And I'm not saying like, oh, refit the factories to build EG Civics. That's like not tenable. That's not going to happen here in the US. But, you know, in the case of Ram Classic, I think that's a perfect example. It's where it's like, okay, you get a single cab or maybe an extended cab with a bench seat in the back, and you get a V6 that pretty reliable engine, 2-wheel drive for $33,000. Like that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Even sub 30K. I don't know if they could make that happen, but just make it more accessible. You know? Yeah. Just turn the knob that goes from not accessible to accessible. You know?
I think, I mean, money talks and people are not buying these gigantic, expensive cars. And so I think that's convincing them finally.
Well, it's fine. Now it is. Cause I mean, it like didn't matter that the average age of someone buying a new car is like 55 years old and that the average price was $48,000. Like the automakers were still making money. So finally maybe it's crested and they're starting to see that downward trend where they're saying this now. You know?
I think the good news is that like when those people die, there's going to be so many low mileage cars,
Yeah.
like 2022 models,
Yeah, dude.
just floating around.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Now, my only concern for this would be like, okay, what effect would tariffs have on
Huge.
this? Yeah.
Everybody,
Because-
it's the parts in the car, it's the cars themselves. The cars go back and forth multiple times across the border to get work done before they're off the line. So
in the case of the Versa and the CX-30, both those cars are manufactured in Mexico.
Yeah.
So automatically a 25% tax on that. The Versa is like, think a $19,000 car.
Mhm.
So now it's a $24,000 car. Still somewhat affordable, but
I mean, it's a
but they're
Versa,
also,
though.
but like the way economists are talking about the tariffs is that you're going to charge 25% on an and especially if there's retaliatory tariffs.
Yeah.
So like you could have chassis go from Mexico to the US.
Mhm.
Then those same cars go back to Mexico to get another thing put
Yeah.
in. So now you're another 25% on the value.
Yeah.
Then they go back down. Then another. So
Crazy.
it's not
Yeah.
even just a 25%. They could
Yeah.
be up to a 75% hike. On
And
the
I know in
production
the case
cars.
of Dodge, the Challenger and the Charger, those were both built up in Canada. I don't know if any trucks are built up there, but I saw a ton of Dodge Rams when I was up in Quebec.
Mhm.
So maybe they're built up there.
Yeah.
So
But think of glass, wheels, tires.
Yeah.
All these things go back and
Yeah.
forth multiple times, and if they all get tariffed.
another genre of car is finding a resurgence after being overtaken by SUVs 30 years ago. It's called the wagon, folks. BMW debuted the new M3 CS Touring at Bathurst last week in the beautiful Laguna Seca blue paint scheme. Now, this is a track-focused killer, murderer, psychopath. They can also haul a family of 5, 2 Labradoodles, and some lacrosse gear. The M3 CS Touring joins other hot wagons like the Volvo V60 Polestar with 455 horsepower. I love that Polestar. The Audi RS6 Avant, 621 horsepower, and the M5 Touring with 717 horsepower.
That's too much horsepower for
That's a lot of
a
horses.
freaking wagon.
That's a lot
But it
of
would be
ponies,
so
baby.
fun.
Yeah.
I would not be able to handle that.
You don't think so?
I would die in that first week. First week of ownership, I'm dying in that car.
I will die in this car.
Are you feeling okay? Are you just? If I was gonna kill myself, that'd be the car to do it in. I think about this all the time, and it'd only take me a week to do it.
I drive in the canals, and then I drive towards when the canal splits,
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
and I would split my
Launch
car in
off.
half.
Whoa.
You might make it then.
Yeah, probably.
You'd be just in one side,
Yeah,
still
yeah.
steering.
Driving a motorcycle.
I've watched movies. I know that can happen.
So features for the M3 CS Touring include aggressive racing seats. There's covered in just like cusses.
Yeah,
Because they're
Poo
aggressive.
crap.
Poo crap. It's also got a 4-wheel drive sport mode that puts more power to the rear wheels. It's got a forged crankshaft and other extremely stout internals in that motor. It's got huge carbon ceramic brakes, aggressive aero, Alcantara, flat bottom steering wheel. Gotta have that. More bracing to make it stiffer and handle better, plus red accents on the grille and badging.
This is the one part I'm more like, it makes it look a little cheap to have the red outline.
That's what
On
the
all the
other the M3 CS has that as well.
On blue, it doesn't look good.
Oh,
Maybe black.
on black it looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also got carbon fiber all over the place, up to wazoo even, and turbos that max out at 30 PSI. So pretty stout.
A lot of boost.
That's a lot of boost. So all in, the M3 CS Touring makes 550 horsepower from the turbocharged inline 6, routed through an 8-speed automatic transmission, and does 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, and has an electronically governed top speed of 186 miles per hour.
Yeah, but you can get a chip. You just get a
Get
chip
chipped.
and get rid of the.
Well, a chip.
Yeah.
I think that's
yeah,
300
and-
kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's often a benchmark for, like, you got your 0 to 60 times. You also
Yeah.
have your 0 to 300 kilometer times.
I actually drove an M3 CS last year.
Shut up.
Yeah. In our 3 base, we tried to get like the cheapest base model 3 Series we could, and then compared it to
I
the
remember
M3
that
CS.
video.
And dude, that thing was super sick.
Rip ass.
It ripped ass, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
It cleared the room.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
cleared the room, so to speak. Yeah. No, it's cool because we were out at Willow and at Streets of Willow, and we, took it. I think we took it around the track. I'm pretty sure. And then on the skid pad, though, I mean, all you had to do was just mash the throttle, and that tail would just slip out just effortlessly. It was awesome. You just do big fat smoky burnouts. It's so
That's
cool.
Fun.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we're not going to see the M3 CS touring here in the U.S.
What?
Yeah.
Why not? We get wagons all the time here, dude.
BMW says that most of the units will be sold in Germany. I can't really see who would buy this in the U.S., to be honest.
The people who want to get those top tier German cars, performance sedans, etc., I think are the same people who would want to get a top tier performance wagon. I think the market's really underestimated. A lot of your average, let's say, American driver wouldn't want that top tier wagon, but I think the money's there if they bring it.
I don't know, dude. The Magnum didn't sell very well.
I don't think.
Yeah, but the Magnum was a historically underrated car.
They didn't do a good job marketing it.
The Magnum's not a piece of shit, Joe. The Magnum had all-wheel drive and 340 horsepower, I believe, and they also had a rear-wheel drive with 405. And this is in 2006, Joe.
That is a lot. 2006 times 10 is the weight of that car, which is...
Yeah, but it could haul. You could do 0 to 60 in about 6 seconds. I don't see you doing that in 2006.
My Audi does it in 5.9 seconds.
Joe, you say one more thing. I swear to God, you say one more thing about the Magnum that I don't agree with, I will smash this glass on your head.
The Magnum fucking sucks.
I've had it. I've had it. What the fuck? That's enough for me.
Joe, are you all right?
What just happened?
What? I'm asking the same thing. What the fuck? It's like this is escalating too fast over something so stupid.
I do actually kind of like the Magnum. Have you cooled off?
Depends.
Welcome back, Bart.
When I tried it was like it didn't dissolve really well. I didn't like it. Just kind of. Yeah,
it's not sugar, I don't think. I hope I don't have internal bleeding later. That'd be bad. I think automakers have done a bad job of marketing wagons and making the case for wagons, at least here in the US. And I think that's because it's easier for them to build big SUVs that don't need to abide by the same fuel standards and crash safety standards. And that's I think that's the main reason why,
the crossover, because they're not, for me, they don't do what they're advertising they do.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. I have more room, more headroom, more room in the back seat, more room in my trunk in my Taurus than I've had any time I've rented a crossover.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you can't fit anything in here. But so I think if you did a wagon, well, now suddenly you've got the best of all worlds.
Yeah. My wife, she drives a old LS430.
How many times has she filled it up with gas?
It's got the V8, so many times. But every time I drive it, I'm like, damn, this thing would be sick as a wagon. Just had a little bit more space in there. I mean, it has a huge trunk as it is, but yeah, I really, really love wagons. Like my mom, when I was a
kid. Also feel great to drive.
Yeah.
If the weight distribution, the wheelbase, they just feel fun to drive.
It feels like you're in a room when you're driving it.
Yeah. My mom
Did you guys ever growing up riding the ones with the back seat facing?
Yeah, my cousins had one. Yeah. My cousins. Yeah. The when they were 5, they had one.
And the rear door had hinges on the side instead of the top.
I think this was a Camry wagon. Okay. So it did have a top hinging thing, but dude, that was so sick.
And then you park and they forget you're in the back and you're like, let me out.
The automakers are depriving parents like you guys of doing bits like that to your kids,
Although I don't know if I'd want to ride in one of those jump seats now because every Ram on the road has laser lights right in your eyes.
Yeah, that would suck. Before this turns into another podcast of people complaining about wagons not being around anymore, I do think again, we're when it comes to the car market, I think it's time for automakers to try to bring back some of those older ideas like a wagon, and that would make a splash, especially if they made a good job, did a good job making the case why people should buy it. They're great they're easy to park,
they're easy to get into.
To the point about the Magnum, which honestly I don't know why, but I really do like it.
Me too.
They marketed it as like really cool. You could put your amp and your electric guitar in the back, and like that's not who would have bought it.
No.
It's there's
That's a dad mobile.
yeah, and you have to. Oh, did you see Tony Angelo built a Magnum?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, it was sick.
Yeah, check that out.
But and that's what I think he called it, the ultimate dad mobile.
Yeah.
But like it's like that's what it is.
yeah.
If you have a family and you enjoy those aspects of driving, you shouldn't just have to give it up.
Yeah.
You know, like I think there's a market of people who enjoy aspects of driving that aren't being served just because they had kids.
If you were rolling out wagons right now, you get all the older millennials that are like have kind of teenage kids or whatever that still remember riding in the back of a station wagon or something.
I think you're onto something with that for sure. Like there's a big nostalgia factor for it. There could be at least. And like, you know, right now, like the ultimate dadmobile, like when you say that, I'm thinking like, okay, if an automaker was going to do like follow that kind of like
you
marketing.
Couldn't market it like that, but it's got to be like wink, wink.
I think you could though. I think maybe not like dadmobile, but like, unfortunately, I think before we get to that, like
we're not going to use any of this.
The first thing I would think like, okay, they're going to try to market you like a truck or something like that, but not everybody needs a truck. Right. Like
you try telling that to people though. People think they need a truck,
but they don't. Like, you know, one, they're horrible on gas. Two, they're huge. They're hard to park. Like I'm thinking like, especially I don't know, like suburban parents, I feel like wagons would make a very good choice or be a good choice. And yeah, I mean, I think you could like the ultimate mom mobile, ultimate dad mobile. Like you have a marketing campaign where it's like, okay, yeah, the dad is like, I don't know, he's taking his kids to Home Depot or something.
Yeah, go off, King.
Yeah, and then like the mom, like I don't know.
I think the way you market it is, it's like great kids. You know, you pull up, the kids get out of the station wagon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
cool dad looks at the guy and he says, "Nice minivan."
Oh,
that's it, done. Commercial over.
Wow. Dude, yeah. And then
there's the guy with the minivan's like, oh,
yeah,
I own a minivan.
That being said, minivans, dude, over at Joe, when we went to visit your parents, rolling around the minivan was pretty sick.
And that's based on a 12-year-old design.
Yeah. Wagons, I hope they come back.
Wagons come back.
Now, let's talk about another car we didn't get in the United States. YouTube channel Garage54 has finally answered the question, can you propel a car using cordless power drills? And the answer is, da. So Garage...
They're Russian.
They're Russian.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're American in the kitchen, what are you in the bathroom?
European?
Yeah. And what are you on the way there if you're late?
Russian.
Yep. You guys can feel free to use that in your daily life.
So in your Dodge Magnum,
you guys
might yelling back at your kids.
You might know Garage54 for their other builds, like the 8-wheeled Fiat. They built a quad-engine Lada and a shortened minibus. Didn't they also put tracks on something?
They put.
Oh yeah.
They do a bunch of stuff with wheels. So there was one that was a wheel. The wheels were all springs.
Okay, I saw that one.
Like,
that one.
And then there was like huge nails.
They do They do a lot of crazy stuff. Yeah. So this Lada in particular was lengthened because a few months ago they put 16 chainsaw engines in it for their V16 chainsaw build. That's insane.
Yeah.
This build though has 50 cordless power drills that they had to take apart and modify in order to power all of them at the same time. They also built a special brace to hold all the drills in place, and with them mounted, it looks like a rotary plane engine. It's pretty awesome.
It does look pretty. It looks pretty ridiculous.
Cool. The drills all have a pulley and belt system that hook up to a modified drive shaft that powers the rear wheels. Theoretical torque for all the drills is 780 foot-pounds, but some of that is lost due to the pulleys. Now,
I wonder how much like horsepower that is, though. Probably not much at all. Maybe
probably
like
not a
50
lot.
50 or something.
Yeah, probably not a lot. There is no accelerator pedal in the car. It's a giant, sketchy metal plate connected to a lever that touches another big metal plate and completes the circuit. So it's basically like a giant like power switch.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. The test runs were super dangerous. The sparks and smoke flying from all the electrical parts. I don't think there's any resistors or anything in the system. I don't know.
The way that they did this was very
it's very funny to watch.
I definitely encourage you guys to check these guys out. It does drive, however, it can only go a few miles per hour. Probably because of the lack of horsepower, Joe.
The lack of horsepower. Yeah. Tons of torque, though.
Yeah. They also painted the car bright green. They chopped the roof and put a huge spoiler on it because why the hell not? It looks hilarious. It's awesome.
It is funny that it's already such a headache to figure out how to make all these drills fire in tandem. Why are they also chopping the roof? And
it looks sick. I don't know. Yeah.
I think it looked pretty. Yeah. It does look pretty cool.
It'd be a perfect Lemons car if you dropped like a little.
Yeah.
You're finishing your lap at the end of the race.
Yeah. We come over here and do that. So, Joe, I apologize for not checking in on you after Bart smashed your face.
No, we didn't do a great acting job. We didn't really sell it that well, so I get it.
I don't know, but what would you do if I hit you in the head with it? I think we both did what we would do.
Yeah.
You'd probably be pretty bewildered. Pretty nonplussed about the whole thing. I think you pulled that off.
I was like, for a second, like gonna push the mic out of the way and fall on the ground.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, that's extra.
We should have put a blood pack in your hat.
I know.
And just let it go.
Blood pack would have been next level.
And I say, I don't feel so good. And then
a big like prosthetic bump, like
coming out
like, the top of your head.
Like an air pump, like and it just goes up.
You guys spend like $400 putting together prosthetics for this.
You didn't come to the rehearsal, Bart.
All right, so that is our show this week. Thank you so much for watching. If there's something you want us to cover, drop a comment or email us at thebig3@donutmedia.com. Leave us a 5-star review or some constructive criticism on the platform of your choice. You can follow Bart at BidsBardo.
Hi.
You can follow Joe at Joe G. Weber.
Do it.
And you can follow me at Nolan J. Sykes if you'd like. Big thanks to the crew, Edgar Grajeda, Audrey Holden, and Mark Schroeder. And thank you once again for listening. We will see you next week. Bye.
I gotta go clean up some glass.
Yeah, we need a vacuum. Is there a vacuum in here?